If you're not careful and no-clip out of reality in the wrong areas, you'll end up in the back rooms, where it's nothing but the stink of old moist carpet, the madness of mono yellow, the endless background noise of fluorescent lights at maximum hum buzz, and approximately 600 million square miles of randomly segmented empty rooms to be trapped in. God save you if you hear something wandering around nearby, because it sure as hell has heard you. Greetings, Wanderer, and welcome back to the No-Clip Podcast, the show where I teach you everything you need to know as you explore the back rooms. I am very sorry for my recent long leap of absence. I was stuck in the White Room and couldn't figure out how to get out for some time. I hope you can forgive me. Without further ado, let's continue. In this episode, we will be going over Entities 1 through 5. Let's get started. Entity 1 is called the Night. Entity 1, dubbed by those who believe in it as the Night, is more based on rumors and hypotheticals than solid information. It is theorized that this entity is more abstract than most organisms in the backrooms, potentially taking the form of a living location accessible from or able to move between different levels. It more so exists in this database as a potential explanation to a piece of as of yet indecipherable phenomena concerning the whereabouts of countless unlocated wanderers. In fact, there's so little information about this location entity as of writing this that we don't even know what it looks like. According to the theories of many a wanderer, the Night is impossible to enter intentionally, rather believed to pick and choose specifically who it abducts as though it were sentient. Those believed to be trapped in the entity's confines would reportedly claim a tide of negative emotion or some extreme sense of foreboding would come over them for days or even weeks in advance of their disappearance. Quite often, these emotional bouts are seen as uncharacteristic of the vanished individual, with their behavior remaining as such until they are abducted and never seen again. Many believe the prior theory that the locale itself is a sentient entity, taking wanderers by the hundreds or even thousands every year for some unknown purpose. Others believe the Night is the byproduct of a different, equally unknown organism who created the locale themselves and continuously lures unfortunate individuals into its domain. Apart from these theories, there is absolutely nothing known of or able to be speculated about the Night. The first known theory to propose the idea of the Night was posed by a Meg impresario in the early 2000s. As of yet, however, no confirmed report has been found of anyone actually encountering/entering this entity and returning to tell about it. Entity 2 is called Windows, to which I have already documented in the 5th episode of the No-Clip Podcast. If you are interested, I recommend you go and check it out. Entity 3 are called Smilers. Smilers, also known as the Smiling Things or the Night Hunters, are treacherous entities that roam most of the backroom's levels. The only distinguishable features of Smilers are their beady eyes and the enormous grins carved across their face, the only things which reflect light. Smilers thrive in dark and damp areas. While generally passive, it is not difficult to agitate them through sudden flashes of light or visible light sources, as they are hypersensitive to this type of electromagnetic radiation. Wanderers who navigate dark levels with the aid of light run the risk of triggering Smilers, which will then give chase. The danger is further compounded when multiple Smilers are nested together in their dormant state, as triggering one will typically trigger the entire group. If a wanderer is fast enough, they may be able to escape Smilers with their life. Other strategies may be employed as well, such as extinguishing the light source or dropping it as a distraction to preoccupy them. When perturbed, the Smilers will prioritize destroying the light source over murdering the wanderer. If the light is too close to the wanderer, however, they will unfortunately be caught in the frenzy. The entities will attack with slashes and chomps, leaving deep gashes. Noticeable and rapid blood loss will result, and as such it is advised to treat wounds as soon as possible. Those who escape attacks from Smilers are typically left with extensive and long-lasting scars. Many of the injuries and casualties that are caused by smilers are mostly facial, where wanderers who were massacred by the entities will have their mouth sliced to mimic a smile similar to a Glasgow slime. Sometimes, there may be a message left nearby that usually says that the wanderer should smile more in black paint, as if the entities used a bodily substance to write the words. Smiler's manner of speech is best described as a garbled, echoing mess of human voices, sounding similar to that of a 30-year-old male. While no comprehensible sentence structure can be made out, a few words can. It is theorized that many of these are snippets of words spoken by the entity's previous victims, similar to a parrot mimicking the sounds of other animals. The earliest discovery/mention of a smiler was back in 2008, when a wanderer was talking through a dark corridor in level 3 and heard a deep, muffled noise. Upon seeing a smile flashing in the distance, they, quote, ran away as far as they possibly could, end quote. The entity's nickname was adapted from what the wanderer had described it as, a smiler. There have been earlier reports of smilers, though many of them are inconsistent and conflicting, to the point that they were ultimately ruled out by MEG operatives as legitimate sightings, until further proof had been discovered. Many of these old reports stated that these entities were smiling objects that seemed to be floating supernaturally, and many others had reported descriptions that seemed to identically match the ones of smilers, though it was disregarded due to the lack of supporting evidence. Entity 4 are called death moths. While descriptions of a death moth's appearance can vary from instance to instance, two main details remain consistent. The first detail regards a death moth's appearance. They seem to bear a striking resemblance to moths belonging to the genus Acherontia. The second detail regarding death moths is their abnormally large size, being much greater in size when compared to moths found in the front rooms, though instances of smaller death moths have been documented. Research confirms that death moths reside in a large majority of levels throughout the back rooms. Death moths seem to originate from the hive, though they primarily inhabit level 5 for reasons currently unknown. However, there are frequent reports of smaller specimens being spotted in levels where death moths are currently documented to not inhabit. Level 5 is where a majority of all known death moths currently inhabit. This has become quite problematic for wanderers due to certain sections of the level starting to become highly dangerous due to large colonies of death moths posing a threat to individuals attempting to traverse through the level. Plans have been made in order to completely exterminate or greatly reduce the population of death moths found on level 5, though these plans have yet to be carried out. Male death moths are much smaller when compared to their female counterpart. Death moths have also been observed to possess different behaviors depending on the specimen's gender. These behavioral differences go as followed. Males, unlike females, can be tamed via almond water, which is not recommended. Upon being tamed, they can be used as a means of defense. When tamed, they cannot be utilized to scout out and potentially find other wanderers, which is also not recommended. They are skittish. When ordered to search for other wanderers, they may lead you to a duller, faceling, or skin stealer. When in groups, male death moths tend to have much more mischievous nature. Taming a male specimen has a limited span of obedience. Male death moths have strong instincts when coming across a female specimen, trying to intrigue or entice the female into being a mate. Females produce moth jelly, which can be consumed for its nutritional benefits and healing properties. The aroma of moth jelly can trick female death moths into thinking you're a death moth as well. Female specimens are highly unpredictable. It is highly recommended you stay clear of any female death moth. Female specimens produce larvae after consuming moth jelly. Larvae are incredibly dangerous. Female death moths can form groups to ambush wanderers. Information regarding death moths is relatively lackluster due to the species' unpredictable nature. Commonly, death moths share a similar appearance to the Acherontia genus, which is a species native to the front rooms, more specifically in southern Europe and a vast majority of Africa, though they will occasionally migrate to the British Isles. It isn't what female death moths consume for sustenance, though after fertilization it'll consume a substance known as moth jelly, sourced from its soft underbelly. After consuming the substance, it'll proceed to lay eggs. These eggs will hatch approximately 3 hours after ovoviviparity is completed. These eggs will hatch as larvae. How larvae defend themselves is by utilizing an unidentified acid, which is unusually putreated with a red color. This acid is known to have 10 times the acidity of concentrated hydrochloric acid. It has been reported that victims of larvae had permanent seared scars across the subjected area. The acid cannot dissolve nerves and brain tissue. A particularly disturbing thing that was taken note of was that people whose bodies were drenched in the acid would be conscious for 10 minutes after submersion. Female specimens are recognized by a soft pouch located on its underbelly. Female specimens use this pouch as a source of moth jelly. This substance is consumable, being known for its nutritional and healing properties. Though be warned, when consuming over 5 pounds of the substance, the victim will experience grim mutations, eventually transforming the wanderer into a weremoth. Female death moths have the ability to produce enzymes which can put their prey into a catatonic state, allowing the females to attack their prey with no resistance. Additionally, females use these enzymes for the purpose of being recognized by other death moths. Applying the enzyme to the skin can aid subtle obscurity from female specimens. There is a downside, however. Male specimens will be tricked into thinking you're a female attempting to get your attention, as they'll see you as a potential mate. This situation poses no danger to the individual in question, though some may find it irritating to deal with them after a period of time. Males are normally recognized by their minuscule size in comparison to females. Many swarms of males have been documented migrating towards a location of unknown stature. Males' underbelly are seen to have no ordinary reproductive organ, rather a pouch that produces an unidentified substance. This substance can fertilize a female. No wanderers have reported seeing the reproductive process, but females are seen to be laying eggs very commonly over small periods of time. The discovery date of death moths have yet to be determined, but it seems a group known as the Lost called these entities the Flies of Terror. Many references have been posted, but none are recognized as of the current moment. Entity 5 are known as clumps. Clumps are hostile entities which resemble massive clumps of human limbs, which flail about and extend in every direction. They are known to inhabit vents, cabinets, and other tight spaces. These entities are infamous for their uncanny level of intelligence when it comes to ambushing and preying on wanderers. These entities spend most of their time tucked away in tight spaces like closets, drains, pipes, chimneys, and most commonly, vents. Generally, the only part of a clump which is seen by a wanderer consists of its frontal arms, which they allow to hang freely and dangle from within their hunting space, a behavior theorized to serve as a form of bait to get wanderers to approach them. While occasionally an arm will flex or a hand will clench, these arms are generally immobile when no wanderers are present. When not in hiding, clumps will take great care to avoid all contact with other entities or humans and remain mostly sedentary while they wait for prey to approach them. However, after extended periods of time without food, these clumps have been known to migrate to other levels of the backrooms, moving forward by propelling themselves with their arms at speeds of up to 20 miles an hour, making them relatively fast in comparison to other entities, though they rarely display this ability. Instead of chasing after prey, clumps prefer to lay motionless and wait for wanderers to come within their vicinity. Once they sense a wanderer is close by, clumps will begin to perform a number of movements in order to entice them into approaching it. These movements may include waving, clapping, snapping, pounding on the walls, communicating in sign language, and other sorts of hand gestures. Do not be fooled, as going anywhere near to a clump is likely to swiftly end in your demise. If you see a clump, slowly walk the other direction without being noticed. In some severe cases, you may need to run. Also, keep your eye on the clump to make sure that it doesn't do anything, and try not to make any noise while backing away. In general, you must stay at least 8 or more feet away from it, otherwise you could be grabbed in and receive your terrifying fate. Clumps measure, on average, 6 feet in diameter and are able to fit in spaces as small as 2 feet by contorting their limbs to fit within these tight spaces. The arms of a clump vary in skin color, with some even bearing injuries or blemishes on the skin. Clumps are also known to possess a single arm which can extend well over 20 feet in length, and is surprisingly strong despite its slenderness. It has been recorded to fit objects weighing up to 800 pounds. This arm is used to catch prey and grip onto them tightly before pulling them past its many arms and absorbing them into its body. How this is accomplished remains unknown, but due to the blood-curdling sounds of your bones being crushed, it is believed this process is extremely painful. A sighting of a clump was first reported anonymously to the MEG database in March 2, 2008. Though at the time the entity had been well known across several other groups. Due to their secretive nature, it is likely they have also existed in the backrooms for a very long time. I will now go over a list of do's and don'ts when coming into contact with a clump. Do. Stay silent in their presence. Do. Keep at least 8 feet away from them. Do. Retreat if you heard the sound of multiple people running. Don't. Try to interact and go near them at all. Don't. Stick around if a clump is moving. Thank you all for watching this episode of the NoClip Podcast. If you'd like to see more episodes in the future, please follow or subscribe on whatever platform you happen to be listening on. This has been the NoClip Podcast. Safe travels, watch out for entities, stock up on almond water, and we'll see you in the next one, Wanderer.